All right, this meeting is now a call to order. It is the April 13th, 2021, 10:30 a.m. meeting of the Charter Review Process Committee. We have, let's see, let me see if there's anybody waiting now. Boop. Yes, I think there is someone waiting. Jane Fuller. Okay, Jane should pop up now. Are you there? Are you there, Jane?
She's in her car.
Okay. Hello, Jane. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yes. I'm in front of the clinic waiting for my first COVID shot. So that's
Oh
why I'm
my
in the car.
goodness. Can we watch you get
Yeah.
it? Will you let us watch you
Sure.
get it? The shot?
Yeah, whatever turns your crank, Bob.
Oh, no,
No
wait a
problem.
minute now. Come on. Come on. Everybody, we need to welcome Jane to our committee. I asked for folks to if anyone was interested in coming on, because we had a small contingent and we had room, and we're getting to the place now where the committees are intersecting. The committees' jobs and what they're considering and all of that are intersecting, and Jane volunteered, and here she is. So there you go. And Jane, unless I got your intentions wrong, you are now a member of our committee. You did tell me that you would have to miss some meetings, and I understand that. You're not one of the original people with that original commitment, and so. But as a member of the committee, Jane will have full rights to participate and propose things and vote on things, etc. Okay, so welcome, Jane. There you go.
Thank you.
Does everybody
And
know Jane? Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Jane. You were saying something?
No, I was just gonna say I'm gonna be kind of in listening mode because I'm catching up on where you guys are. I haven't had a chance to look at all the documents that you've
Gotcha.
been generating, and so I'll
Gotcha.
be a bit in listening mode, and I'm kind of here with Kyle, who's also the Justice and Equity Committee as well. So we're sort of tag teaming together as we follow you. So
Okay. Here is Kyle, and I am admitting him. It says guest. I guess you're all guests, aren't you? You're my guests. Welcome to my home. Welcome to. All right.
And Bob, FYI, we're just seeing, or at least I'm just seeing the top half of your head. So if it matters.
It's really the only part that matters. Really, nothing that comes out of the mouth part matters at all. Okay.
Any lip reading I'm doing. There we go.
Okay, there we go. How can you resist? Here's all of me. All right. Let's take the roll. And I'll just, rather than taking the roll, I'll just read off who's here for the record. We have Bill Apple and Liz Lafferty and myself, the chairman, Robert O'Connell. We have Patty Garcia, Jane Fuller, and Kyle Davis. It looks like for guests, we are once again graced with the presence of Alexandra Gayak, Micheline Halliday, and Ben Bama. That's who's here so far. About the public comment, you people probably all know the drill because you've been so faithful and coming by. But we will have a few minutes at the end of our discussions for you to make whatever comments that you care to make. They will be limited in time to 3 minutes each, unless we have more time given who wants to say what. And we usually try to make that happen so people are kind of talked out by the end. But at any rate, there we are. I have to apologize to the committee. I always find myself working to the last minute on this stuff. And I just sent you some material, okay?
Oh, dear.
I just emailed you some material. One of the emails has well, you all know that I proposed a budget amendment that I was asked to do by Kevin. And so actually, I shouldn't say I was asked to do it. I volunteered for the assignment for the process committee, okay? And so I started off with that, and I sent that to you. It was before just now, but Then Bill took a look at it and came up with some changes that he's proposing. So I've sent that to you all. And I also have sent the Randy Gaylord sent out yesterday a response. Maybe it was, I think maybe it was to Bill. I'm not sure, about the kind of the requirements for the Bill of Rights, and he cited, among other things, the Lake Erie case. Okay, the Bill of Rights for Lake Erie, or I think it's LOB, whatever it comes out to. But I gave that a read with the lawyer's eye, as I'm sure Bill did, and I came out with a proviso for the Bill of Rights, which I sent to you all also. And there are just a couple of items in the proviso. Rather than have you have to go hunt that up, I could tell you what that is up front. I printed it up, I hope. Let's see. Ooh.
Can I share
Yes.
my screen so you can see it that way? Is that quicker?
This is really short.
Okay.
It's I've entitled it a note to the process committee after reading the Lake Erie Bill of Rights case. It is apparent that we must set out at the beginning or at the end of our own Bill of Rights this proviso, and this is it. This Bill of Rights shall apply only within the boundaries of San Juan County, Washington, and only to the extent that they do not conflict with the Constitution and laws of the United States and those of the state of Washington. Now, Bill has been telling us this for a while, but anyway, it is now certainly sunk in with me, and I think that every step that we take now, we need to consider those two things. We also need to consider what made the federal court throw out the Lake Erie Bill of Rights. They threw it out because it was unconstitutionally vague. Okay, that the folks didn't take the opportunity to draw. It said to make the hard choices between people's economic rights and the rights of environment, the rights to protect the environment, or the duty to protect the environment. Didn't make the hard choice as to where that line is drawn. And then the second thing was they attempted to override higher authority, which they cannot do. Matter of fact, they specifically said that I think it was the state's law regarding such and such will not be enforced in this county anymore, and it's replaced by this Bill of Rights, which is kind of ridiculous. It's like they said, please, court, strike this down as unconstitutional. I don't think any of us want to go to the work of all of this and have the product struck down as unconstitutional. So we must strain whatever we have through this net, I guess, to make sure that we A, don't let it to be vague, and B, don't let it be counter to the law. Yes, Liz.
I do want to be sure that we, somehow remain mindful of the task that, we're in the same position as the equal rights, the suffragettes, is that we're being told by the law that we can't do something because the law prohibits it, and yet it's the very thing that we're trying to do. And so we are in this box, and
Yes,
to
we are.
not to turn to the suffragettes and say, you need to, behave better, you need to wait longer. That's the same position we're in terms of trying to find language, amendments, bills that, if we say, nature has to wait because our law doesn't allow it, we're going to lose the very diminishing window that we have to possibly do anything better and smarter.
Liz, you mentioned the suffragettes, or actually what they were called is the suffragists, but everybody calls them suffragettes. Look at what they did. They went to the White House and chained themselves to the fence to try and get President Wilson's attention. It took them a long time to get his attention. They did that because they wanted an amendment to the Constitution, which eventually was approved. They didn't say, let's go out state by state and pretend like we have an amendment or pretend like we have the power to do X, Y, and Z without the Constitution being amended. I understand what you're saying, Liz. I get what you're saying. You know, pushing the envelope and trying to get some judge to say, yeah, this law is sufficiently important that we're going to override X, Y, or Z. But we do need to also be aware that this is a lot of work, and that if the Lake Erie Bill of Rights case was filed the day after the election, okay, bam, it was waiting. If we have stuff that overrides state law, for instance, or that is just vague and wishful and not specific, then we will have at least one group with a lawsuit written up and that will be filed the day after the election. In some instances, like with this initiative in one case, they filed it before the election, before the thing was even adopted. And you can do that in some narrow cases. So we have to watch out. But Liz, I get what you're saying. And my heart is with you on that. But my head says, my lawyer head says, don't waste your time, you know. Yeah, Bill.
One of the our job is to operate within the law because we're doing a legal document. When you go and chain yourself to a fence, or you get a chat with the president, you're using extra legal means. This is really what Greenpeace is about. This is what a lot of activists are doing because they know the law and they know if they act within the law, they will never get there. We are not capable of doing these wonderful and exalted things that people want us to do. On the other hand, the law changes when perceptions change. And what I see our obligation is to express the perceptions to which the law needs to move, but not change the law in the charter, because just as you say, certain groups will jump and they will strike it. And then we'll look like fools and it will not have an effect. Everybody will walk away with their tails between their legs. So I think what I was hoping to do is to express legally those things which can be said legally, but also to express the hopes that it would be viewed differently. But it's people who have to do it. You'll notice that a tremendous amount of activists, Bill McKibben being one, flies all over the world, telling other people what to do.
Hey, Bill, let's not go there. I don't find that helpful.
Well, no,
I'm not sure Bill was through. Go ahead, Bill.
Hear me out. Hear me out. What I am saying is, and he's certainly had a good response to it. I mean, this is all in the open, but the point is not just what the law is, it's what people believe is right. And the law is very limited in that role. We can give people a hope and an expectation, and I think that's our job to do that. We cannot change the law, but we can perhaps give a nudge to where this thing is really going at the moment. And I think the article that Randy put out is very hopeful. We have 1 foot on the dock and 1 foot in the boat. The dock at the moment is the law and the boat is nature, and it's kind of wobbling around. We need to reverse that, but we can only reverse it when perceptions get to the point where the law gets changed. It is a very fundamental change.
Thank you, Bill. I know Jane wants to respond, but Liz kind of said the first thing, and I'm going to let you respond if you want to, Liz, and then we'll go to Jane.
No, I'm okay.
Okay, Jane, please. Oh, you're muted.
Okay, yeah, I am muted. Okay. No, thanks. I mean, it's valuable hearing your two perspectives, Liz and Bill, on this. And it's actually quite informative for me, given what we're deliberating on the Justice and Equity Committee. you know, because as I think about what you guys are trying to do with regard to the preamble to this charter, and what I think the Justice and Equity Committee would like to also see as a placeholder in the preamble of the charter is what we would hope this county constitution represents in terms of values and principles we aspire to as a people. And what we're realizing too in the work that we're doing in our committee, indeed, is that there's a fundamental lack of awareness within our county's population about some very, very important issues related to justice and equity. And you know, that expression, people don't know what they don't know, in terms of justice and equity is written all over this county, frankly, and in terms of issues that we think need attention. And so I appreciate what Bill is saying, just in the sense that this, you know, as framers or reframers of our county constitution, so to speak, we can't be activists. I do understand, but we can, as he was saying, you know, we can be trying to put some markers down in terms of what things this county values and the directions it wants to be going in the future, because it holds of great value the environment and also the rights of individuals. Anyway, sorry, that's all I'll say.
Could I hear from Kyle and Patty on this? Do you have anything, Patty?
But Bob, excuse me, I think you have a community member waiting to get in there.
Yeah, I went in there and tried to figure out who that was, and I didn't have a name come up. Let's see.
They just texted me and said they're trying to get in.
What's the name?
Kai Sandburn.
I don't see him in the, I see, it says 9, and that's that's the number that we have. And his name is not in the list here. So I don't know quite what to do about that. I've let
He won't
everybody
be in the list until you, is he waiting there to be admitted somewhere? Do you have a
Won't be in the
little?
list until what?
It's a she, and she said she's waiting for the host to admit.
Right. So she won't be on the list until you punch that she can be admitted.
How can I do that if she's not in the list?
Well,
It'll be over in a request. Comes in, like when Kyle just came in.
Okay. Oh, there. Boom.
Yeah.
Just came up. Just now came up this second. As I was looking at it, came up at the top. So we're good.
okay, cool.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay. No, that was important. Thank you for doing that. And
Yes.
please
thank
don't hesitate to do that in the future. That was a strange deal. Okay. I just want to tell Kaizen Byrne that for some reason your name didn't come up initially. And I went to the list knowing that after Liz mentioned that you were on there, and watched it for a minute, and finally, bing, it popped up at the beginning. And as soon as I did that, I pushed admit. I'm sorry that you had to wait.
No problem. Thank you.
Yes.
There you are.
All right. Patty.
I'm only just gonna say I'm really busy writing down what everybody says. so,
Okay. That's
um,
very valuable. Thank you.
yeah, and it's not easy. So I'm gonna be mute for a while.
Okay. Kyle, how about you? I really respect your opinion. What's in your head?
Every time you ask me that, I feel more and more pressure to. Well, suffice it to say, I'm kind of in between. I feel pretty strongly that I was, without direct evidence, that I was elected to evaluate whether the charter is a fair and accurate representation of how we want to govern ourselves and what goes into that. And so I think that does open a door for not only this topic, but some leeway, this is my personal feeling, some leeway to dig a little bit here. And, certainly to operate within the law, but to also challenge whether or not the way it's expressed so far and how it's done is the way we want to live. That's the whole idea of home rule in the first place, is it not?
Yes.
So, this is not a challenge to Bill, but how we move forward. The Bill of Rights specifically is going to be a test of that. And I don't feel personally like if it doesn't pass that I'm a failure or that the whole ship is is in a flaming crash. That's a test of, that relationship exists and comes and goes. There's a time at which representatives have to sort of lob a new concept out there and have it tested, have a litmus test happen. And we won't make progress here if we don't challenge some of the way we do business, not only the way, but sort of the place from which we find our rights, the place from which we find our own sense of self-governance. So I'm happy to challenge this a little bit and to and I want to acknowledge that Randy is in fact the lawyer for the county. But I do feel very strongly that, no matter what your specialty is, no matter what it is that is your job, there are other people who do your job who are just as adequate or just as talented, but have very different perspectives inside and outside of the law. So I don't know how to do that. I think we're going to have that conversation to some extent tomorrow. I'm not ready to make a decision about actual wording on anything tomorrow, but I think we move ahead.
Let me tell you, I think what we have here is we have the two lawyers on the committee, myself and Bill, becoming, as we get closer to the place where we have to pass this bill, becoming more and more concerned with wasting our time and having what we come out with just struck down and washed away. Nobody here wants that to happen. On the other hand, those of you who are saying, let's push the envelope and laws can be changed, etc. Well, that's true. Now, I will say this, if you're really intent on changing various laws that pertain to what we want to do, that are state laws, the place to do that is Olympia. Okay.
That's right.
And one thing that we can do is we can ask our new climate commissioner to make it one of her tasks that she goes up to Olympia and lobbies for things that we think are just regarding the environment. And I think that would be an important thing. In the meantime, if we want to have any kind of credibility down here in San Juan County and not just be laughed at, we need to not have our Bill of Rights struck down, a month after we have passed the thing, if it even gets passed. Myself, I'm having trouble with this because my heart is with Liz's ideas about how we ought to do this. And, there have been people in every one of the movements she's talking about that have broken the law to get where they're getting. But that's not what we're doing. This isn't a protest movement against something we think is not working. This is a bunch of people writing laws, and what laws we can write and what we can't. Yeah, Liz.
So one of the perspectives to keep running this through has to do with, our task being to change the conversation. And in changing conversation and use of language, you change hearts and minds, and then you have a whole different set of cultural norms and behaviors that come out of that. So Bob, I'm wondering, to you two attorneys specifically, Bob and Bill, Bob, I'm wondering if the language that you propose, that anything we write can't exceed, sorry, I'm not getting your language clearly, but if that might not give us some latitude to really write where this county lives and breathes as a majority and what it is, how they want to rule themselves. Can we get the best of both words?
I think I see what you're saying.
With your disclaimer.
It sounds like what you're saying is, can we tell the world what we think is right?
And for us, can we tell the world what we think is right for us? I don't want to presume.
Well, do you mean without necessarily staking out that we're saying this is now the law here?
Right, that we put it in our document boldly, and we've said we get it.
Yeah.
That we are limited, and we're not going to go and break any of these laws. But this is the behavior, the mindset we want to operate under, and we're putting it into our governing body and will enforce it to the degree which state and federal law allows.
Let me,
Kyle, yeah.
in just a minute, we're going to hear from Kyle, but let me respond by telling you one thing that was contained in the Lake Erie case that I think maybe produces a crack. Okay. And I don't know, Bill, I don't know what you'll think about this, but the judge there said that we have to make hard choices regarding the appropriate balance between environmental protection and economic activity. What if we got a judge somewhere to turn that over and say, no, you don't. No, you don't. Environmental protection comes first and economic activity comes next. Bill.
I suggest an approach here, a couple of things. As I don't know whether I've said, but
Bill, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I have skipped over Kyle, who had his hand up a bit ago. So if we can,
And
I'm
Jane has had
retired.
her hand up for a while, Bob.
we'll what, pardon?
Jane has had her hand up for quite a while also.
I'm sorry, Jane too.
Yeah.
Kyle, did Jane have her hand up before you? Jane, did you have, why don't you go first then, Jane? No, Kyle, Jane, then Bill. Okay, Kyle.
Are we jammed up to some extent? So, the preamble was part of this group. We've addressed it. May not be the thing that comes out in the end, but it's close, and we've heard a little bit from people. Is the notion here that we're trying to give rights, and the rub with current constitution as it's, if we change, do we devalue this conversation and the pieces that we're holding dear if we changed this conceptually to like a list of values or a something of values as opposed to a Bill of Rights, where we can, what's the legal pushback, the formal pushback, if we express as a group what we think, what we hear from people, and what we think for ourselves in terms of majority held or globally held values of the county, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about, that's true to a large extent for justice and equity. But if we don't call it Bill of Rights and we don't try and define nature in a term that has legal, has a place of legal pushback, can we accomplish the same thing and still be heard?
Yeah.
Without generating a whole legal field of
Kyle, I think you are boring in on something very possible, something that we might do, because after all, we could list this. This is what we believe. These are the things that are important. And these are the things that are going to become the law in this county and hopefully elsewhere. And then without making it the law, if it conflicts with something else, we also make it the duty of the new climate commissioner to try to make the things that we have put down here as our values the law.
Yes.
By doing it the right way. Would that be a better approach? Let me get to Jane. Jane, you had your hand up.
Okay, I'm muted. Sorry. Yeah. No. So it's a question in a way, and it sort of builds on what Kyle's just talking about here. But it's a question for your committee, for the committee. Are you deliberating over what language you put into the preamble about the rights of nature? Is this what you're talking about, or
that's done? The preamble's done.
Okay, and so you're deliberating now. Sorry, this is where I'm on catch-up mode. You're
on
deliberating on a Bill of Rights that you want to include as a new article in the charter. Is that correct?
That's right, as an amendment to the charter.
Okay. So where's the intersection with what the Climate Change and Environment Committee is putting on the table in terms of their proposal? And wouldn't you want the language that you want to put in a Bill of Rights, so to speak, to reflect the intentionality of the Climate Change and Environment proposal to create an environment commissioner?
Absolutely, Jane. I'm on that committee, and there's other people here on the committee. Yes, 2 other people on that committee. We will be discussing tomorrow the what the powers and duties of the climate commissioner are going to be. So, it rolls from here to there, and if we decide now that we want to go the way that Kyle was beginning to suggest, I think, then the climate commissioner duties and responsibilities, it's clear that ought to be one of them, to
Right, right.
put life, breathe life into these values to the extent that they become laws,
Right.
And yeah, Liz,
So, yep.
I'm sorry, were you
Sorry.
done? Were you done, Jane?
Well, it was just sort of a follow-on question for the legal minds in the committee. I mean, which is, if you feel, if your judgment is that creating a Bill of Rights is going to create more problems or challenges for this charter, then having values and principles-based language in a preamble that's very clear vis-a-vis intentions of the county, and then you have, for example, an environment commissioner position being struck, and then on the justice and equity side, we're looking to create this Justice and Equity Oversight Commission. I mean, is that not sufficient if the Bill of Rights is going to potentially trip us up and even potentially undermine the directions we want to be moving and shifting this county, starting from the adoption of amendments to the charter? It's a question. If anybody has any.
I hope that the rest of the committee will correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I don't think we're giving up on the Bill of Rights. I think that there are rights out there that we can identify that have not yet been laid out that will not conflict. There's got to be some that will not conflict with state law. There's got to be spaces in there, okay? And it's just that it becomes complicated, but we just have to be willing to live with that complication. So Liz was next, I think. She's got her hand up.
So responding to Kyle and Jane, Kyle, you had talked about the possibility of creating a list of values that represent, the county. And Jane, you were talking about the position. So the other crack or the other place to leverage rights for nature would be then in the job, not necessarily the title, but the job description and duties and mission statement would then become really critical to lay out the language, I don't know if you end up using rights of nature language, but to make sure that the description and the duties and the mission of that office are in alignment with what we're trying to get at here. Kyle, I think you were next, and then Bill, you're on it, Bob.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Go ahead, Kyle.
See if I can hold my thoughts together. I think to that point, Liz, I think that's we could lay that out in the job description, the duties of the office or job description of that position holder. And it might, I can't speak for the two legal minds, but it might be to the extent possible or something like that. I mean, I'd certainly like it to go further and be proactive, not aggressive, but proactive as much as possible. Realistically, I think that has a lot to do with the candidates that fill those positions in whatever term.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, can we direct? Kevin is very keen on prescriptive direction and making, us really clearly formatting and directing what it is that we'd like. On rights of nature, I think there's more conversation to be had here, but I'm not sure how to do that. I think that job is still ahead, but go ahead, Bob.
I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I just wanted to say that we have Kevin telling us that they're getting more money and they're going to expend some of it for research, including legal research. What if we did our best without breaking our backs to try and identify the things that we can't do, and then anything else, the stuff that we might be able to do, the stuff for sure we can do, we put in there, and then we ask, or we could just say everything we want in there, we put in there, and then we tell Kevin, this stuff needs to be researched and some of it struck out because we know that some of it won't fit. Or we may know, Bill may know, Bill may have the expertise. I don't, because my legal background is from another state. So I'm not as familiar with what the Washington state law and constitution sets out. I can become familiar, but it's a big job, obviously. So, that's one path that we could take. Who else had the hand up? Anybody? If not, here's what I'd like to do.
Bill wanted to speak.
So we don't get, say that again.
Bill's had his hand up for a bit.
Bill, go ahead. Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, where did you practice, Bob?
In Tennessee.
Okay.
And believe me, in Tennessee, there's not a lot of enthusiasm for the rights of nature, although it's a beautiful and naturally beautiful state. So
Well,
40 years practice there.
copperhead, spiders, all kinds of stuff. I know.
Here's what I think well, go ahead, Bill. What would you have to say?
Yeah, I've accumulated a list over the last 10 minutes. One of them simply is an order, a matter of order. I think we need to get the budget issue out of the way.
Yes, that's what we're doing.
But
That's
I have a
Go ahead.
clarification on the budget issue. If Kevin thinks he's going to get money for lawyers, they're not going to give it to him. I don't think he understands how things work in this county. It may be possible in his experience in the state, but the law says, and I'm real sorry, I'm trying to argue for the present paradigm because the present paradigm is the one we're jumping off from. And until you understand where you are, you're not going to get anywhere. And starting with the lawyers, as a matter of law, Randy is the only, capital letters, only lawyer that can be used by this organization. And I've written Kevin a memo about this, warning him that he cannot go out and find and talk to other lawyers and get money for them. The law does not permit that. I do not know where he's getting it. He has not responded to my email. If he doesn't respond tomorrow, I'm going to make the letter public to the whole group. And I think he has to answer to the whole group. The only way a county body, and we are the county, we're not an independent group, we are the county. The only way that can happen is that if Randy selects or approves a lawyer that we want to use, and it comes out of his budget.
Well, let me say that I may have misspoken. I am not sure, and you may know different, Bill. If you do,
Well,
just
I know.
But listen, I think that what I heard Kevin say was getting money approved in the budget that he wanted to use for research.
That's right.
Okay. Now,
That's
I'm not
all.
sure I heard him say legal research.
It doesn't, research is lawyering. And I've
Not to the
heard,
whole world.
look, I'm not trying to be cute here. I'm serious.
Yes.
He also has said, well, he'd like to have outside counsel do drafting. That is Randy's job. Let me tell you that Island County experimented with this idea because they didn't like their prosecutor. And there was a war. But it's too bad. The prosecutor is separately elected, and that person has a function. And another lawyer on Whidbey Island, who took what she thought was a county contract for legal services, was told by the Supreme Court, "You're out. You have no business getting in there." I have some serious questions of the ethics of any lawyers who step in without Randy's approval, because we are a client who already has a lawyer, and it is not ethical for other lawyers to step in and agree to play the game, mirror, mirror on the wall, give me the answer that I want. That's not ethical. And some
Got
lawyer-
it.
So all I'm saying is the answer to that is just a flat no. And that's it. And if he tells the council that he wants the money for lawyers, they're going to say no. Now
Okay.
that's, wait a minute. I've been sitting here for a while. I haven't finished my list.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. The the who we are and why we want to do this really belong in the findings. Everybody is putting all their thoughts and feelings into the charter. That isn't really where they belong. They belong in the reasons we are this kind of people, and so this is what we are doing, what we are providing. If gradually the law may change, but on a capitalist system that we have, there is only one thing that can be a party in a lawsuit. And that's under admiralty law, ships get sued. You don't sue the owner, you sue the ship.
Right.
And so, but it is the only example. What's interesting about it is admiralty law arose out of international law because they had to have some rules. And I wouldn't be surprised if laws of nature didn't come up that way anyway, but I'll leave that alone. I just want to say that there is an example from which things can move, and that is in admiralty law.
All right.
But I will say that people who want to give nature rights the way everybody seems to think can be done will cause a major convulsion of the United States economy. It is no small thing. And I'm not sure people are grasping this. They're dreaming, and I'm dreaming with them. But I'm saying we don't have the tools to do what we and other people want to do. I would propose it backwards, though. You've seen what I propose to put in the rights of nature. And the first thing is we will protect it. The county needs that message, because one of the problems we've got right now, not in the future, not in dream time, but now, is that we're not enforcing our own laws. And that does need to be put in the charter. That needs to be said, and we're going to do it. Just as important, we need to make sure that we're going to reach out and we're going to enforce all future laws. We need to build in a net to take the benefit of where things are going, so that things that happen after or enacted after our amendment is passed are automatically snagged and brought in. This has got to be a ratchet where we slowly pull this in. It isn't going to happen tomorrow. It isn't going to happen by grand statements. It's going to happen incrementally. And we need to provide a machine to do exactly that. End of rant.
Yeah. Yeah. The machine, I believe, is the Climate and Environment Department and the Bill of Rights.
And we need to prepare for that.
Liz.
Yeah, whatever.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
Really. Liz, you had something?
I'm looking to tampen down the alarm that lives in full-bodied in myself, and I think in all of us. And Bill, I hope you recognize at this point, the time we spent together, I don't think I ever lose sight that you are dreaming with us. So I just.
I'm sorry, it wasn't offensive, but I'm just saying, this is who I am. I'm with you.
Yeah. So I don't lose sight of that.
Notwithstanding bad news I deliver.
We're glad you're there.
And I do know, if I'm having a visceral reaction, that the other people that share similar values and mindset are probably having it. And when I hear you talk about the limitations around Randy, what I begin to hear is a law, and I've no offense to Randy, but we the Randys of the world, for the Randys of the world, by the Randys of the world, that box is so tiny that it empowers him to be the entirety of our government. And I know we've already, many of us, or several of us, I should say many, a few of us have already reached out to at least one other attorney, being Lindsay. And I think there may be others that have been reached out to. And it's not to throw Randy out, it's to include the expanded thinking that is going on by other, people have legal expertise. I have one more thing to say, and I'm trying to figure out how to do this respectfully, is to keep in mind that the conversation we're having is occurring inside the paradigm of giving you all with legal reference points, would, that deferring to, that's part of the mindset that has allowed some of the harms to occur. So I hope that translates respectfully, but it's like, Bill, when you use phrases like, I'm, not in la la land, I have my feet grounded, that is part of the dismissive patriarchal language that has allowed harms to occur to women, children, nature, and it is part of what causes a reaction. So I'm trying to figure out how to graciously expand our awareness that we're having a conversation inside of a paradigm that we are all struggling to step outside of. So I hope that there's no offense taken when I point out some of the inflammatory language of La La Land, and this group is practical, has their feet on the ground, and this group is off in Magic Wonder.
That's for
So
sure.
I will stop there, but thank you for listening to that.
Okay, Patty.
I just want to state that one of the things that Liz mentioned, when we get people coming in who are lawyers and they say, hey, this is my opinion, it is not, I'm not giving a legal opinion. We have the ability to get all of those people. We just don't pay them, but we can ask people for their opinions. And I don't think that that's a problem, but they shouldn't be in the budget because we can't pay them for their opinions, but we can get advice from people, and we
Okay.
have.
All right, what we need to do now is, yes, Bill.
Just a short thing.
Sure.
I didn't finish my list, but
Mhm.
the first thing a lawyer has to do is to put all feelings aside. Otherwise, you can't do your job. You're too
Right.
upset. I'm serious.
I know, believe me.
Yeah, I believe it. It's a serious issue. But on the other hand, we are not using Randy right, and we're complaining, and there's no good reason for that. If you have a lawyer, your question isn't, is this all right? Do these words work? Or that? That's not it. The right question to ask a lawyer is, how do we do this? Randy has never been asked. Everybody is mincing around, doing everything else. If you have a lawyer, use that lawyer. We're not using him, and we're going outside. I think Lindsay's a neat guy, but I have to tell you, there's a snake oil factor too. And one aspect of this is a lawyer who doesn't agree to give legal advice. Well, this is what I think, but I'm just, is attempting to avoid malpractice. And you need to
Okay.
be very careful. Lawyers will talk loosely, and it is a marketing device. Do not kid yourself.
Yeah,
It
I
is a
think
business.
that we all realize that we have one attorney, one county attorney, and it's Randy Gaylord. I don't think, unlike the other, whatever the other county was that you were talking about, I don't think we don't like Randy Gaylord. We might think sometimes that his opinions are conservative in nature and keep us from getting what we want, but we need to be grown up about that. Now, Randy will be used. Randy will look at this thing, and I promise you, he'll look at this thing, and there may be things that he strikes down. If Randy has got the knowledge to know exactly what is in the state law and Constitution regarding the things that we are concerned with, then that makes him a very valuable resource. I say we put in there what we want to put in there, and we tell Randy, go at it and tell us if we can do this, and if we can't do it, like Bill says, ask him how we can do it. Yes, Liz, we need to move on off of this, but go ahead.
Yeah, and I wanted to just agree with what you were saying, Bob and Bill, is that I think that we speak for what the people want and ask Randy, how do we do that?
That's good. That's good. Kyle.
Point. That is my point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody's
So,
done that
good
before.
idea.
They've all talked to public speakers all over the place and articles in states that have different law. We have a very constrained legal system in this state.
Why don't we make a list? point by point, the right to this, the right to that, the right to that, the right to that, the right to that, the right to that. Randy, we want to include all of this in our Bill of Rights. How can we accomplish that? Tell us how we can accomplish that. Is that something that makes sense? Liz?
I've just heard you attorneys say you want to avoid lists because if you leave something out, they assume you intended to leave them out. So how else might we ask Randy the question?
For instance, what I've drafted, I know he would approve. I haven't asked him, but it's written because it is a legal document to respond to a legal situation under the current language of the law. What people are trying to do is change the language of a law. When you change a language, you change a culture, you change everything. And this is the reason why I wrote that property memo. You also change what property is. There is nothing more fundamental to an economy than what property is.
Okay, we need to stay on point. Liz, you can make lists that you send to your attorney. That ob inclusio thing only counts when you're putting something out, like in a statute or something like that. Anyway, we
Thank
need
you for
to.
that remind me, because we can't do the tagline and anything else that we've forgotten to mention. Right.
I'm responsible for getting the agenda accomplished,
Yes.
and we've been on this for a long time. A very important discussion, not totally resolved, but we've got some ideas about it. All right. The third, we've already done that. Okay, the third, didn't we? Yeah, we did. If we haven't done it, we'll do it again. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Okay, the minutes are approved. All right, now the third thing on the agenda is a discussion and approval of the proposed charter amendment dealing with the budget and provisions for future CRCs. To tell you the truth, I thought I was just going to lay this out and you guys were going to say, yeah, that looks good, approved, boom. We're going to spend that much time on it. But Bill took a look at it and he has a competing proposal. And some of the rest of you might also. I would really not, this needs to come out of here today. I would really rather, so we can go on to it with our other stuff, I'd rather not spend an hour on this. But do you guys have both of the proposed charter amendments concerning the budget?
Bob, I have to say that if this form goes before the CRC as a body, I will oppose it.
Okay.
And so will a number of other people. And it has to do with that inflation statement in there.
Let's take it out. Let's take it out. Take the inflation thing out. Are you good with mine if I take the inflation statement out?
Yeah.
Would you be? I'm willing to do that. So I'm going to strike that. Yes, Liz.
I just wonder, is it appropriate to put that, Kyle can do it quickly, into the chat so the public has a reference point of what we're discussing?
Yeah, could you put mine up there? Or you could put both of them up there. I don't. It seems like let's start with mine.
In the chat or on screen?
On screen.
Not everyone on the phone will see that. So
I'm glad we got an expert.
not everyone on the phone will read the chat either, I don't believe.
Right. If you just put it up, we can talk about it. I'll read it out loud so people who don't see it can know what's in it. Okay.
Both versions can be read from mine because I used red and cross out.
Yeah.
Okay, give me a second. I just have Bob's pulled up. So one second. Fill the time with something useful while I do that.
Okay.
Let me tell you that at Bill's suggestion, I am striking the plus an allowance for inflation. The idea behind this is that Kevin thinks, and I agree with him, that the commission has that the people have a right to expect us to hit the ground running, and it has took this commission a long time to get its logistics figured out and all of that. That needs to be in place before January 1st, before the day that we can first act, so that we can make use of all of our time. Yeah, that's Bill's. Okay.
It's actually both of them because if you take the red out.
I understand. Okay, so let's just we delete, Bill says existing section 9.22 expenditures. The county council shall provide to the CRC reasonable funds, facilities, and services appropriate to an elected county agency. Provision shall be made in the budget for the expenditures of the CRC during its term in office. And then members of the CRC shall serve without salary, except that the salary, except that they shall be reimbursed for reasonable out-of-pocket expenses. That will appear again, but for now we've deleted it for purposes of simplicity. And we've added the new section 9.22 and entitled it CRC Budget and Provisions. And it reads, and this was in the original, the county council shall provide to the CRC reasonable, and then Bill has added and necessary. I have no problem with that, funds and facilities and services appropriate to an elected county official during its term of office. Right.
Who decides necessary? I mean, I think that's necessary based on what the county council believes or what the
Or-
CRC believes.
It already had reasonable in there, which is even more difficult, I think, to
Take that
define.
necessary out. I don't, that's a phrase that's used in legislation, but I'm just tracking how statutes. address it.
Okay, and reasonable is already in there right now. I mean, in the existing charter to an elected county agency, and then Bill says during its term of office. That makes sense to me. Okay, provision shall be made in the budget for expenditures of the CRC during its scheduled term of office. Now, this next sentence that Bill strikes, I'd like to have back in, not the whole sentence. I'm willing to take the inflation part out. It reads, in no event shall the funds provided to the CRC be less than the total expenditures of the immediately preceding CRC. We don't want to find out that it took us $10,000 and they give the next one $2,000. No, they should give them $10,000 and the CRC should be able to expend that because they have our experience showing that we need it. But Bill, I also put in there an inflation part. Bill wants that struck. I'm okay with it striking it if it will get Bill's support for the first part of the sentence.
Bob,
Okay.
what I'm concerned about and why I took it out and what I think anything like it should go out, for instance, having the budget always larger than the budget of the previous CRC is things are different. For instance, in the last CRC, we had to rent space. That resulted in, because we met personally, and that was a different cost. The whole point is to budget only what you need and not say, well, now we've got an extra $5,000 because the last one was so expensive. That's not budgeting. And I think there'll be a real objection from the CRC.
Okay.
We should not under any circumstances get more money than we need.
Okay, that is always a risk and usually happens. You can either get more money than you need, the exact amount of money that you need, or not enough money.
Yeah.
Only one of those choices ensures, well, two of them ensures that you will have enough, and the one that says exactly is impossible to meet. That's why I think this first sentence ought to go in there. But let's go on. And yes, Kyle.
Chair, I am not muted. Okay. For my purposes, is it okay with the group? My understanding would be as the author or joint authors, if you both agree to remove, or because it's not really a motion yet, I can just strike. And are you okay with me doing that on the screen?
I am. Go ahead. As far as I am concerned, being the author, the original author, upon the objection of Bill, and when Bill and I are talking back and forth, that's just he and I resolving what we think. And the rest of you may say, throw the whole thing out. We don't like it. And do whatever you want to do. But anyway,
I will,
that's okay with me, Kyle, for
Okay,
you to
I won't-
strike everything after plus.
okay, I won't make changes on screen until there's consensus.
Okay. Then the next sentence says, should the funds provided prove to be inadequate to the task, the commission may ask the city council for more funding, which may be provided at the council's discretion. I think that part has to be in there, and that's the part that tells me we could have trouble if we don't have enough money to begin with. The county manager shall provide an adequate space. By the way, all of this that follows is not in the present charter, and it's all language that either I or Bill came up with. I came up with the stuff in the black, and Bill came up with the stuff in the red from here on out. The county manager shall provide an adequate space, then Bill adds, and/or telecommunication services, which I thought I had taken care of later, but for the commission to conduct all of its meetings. The county manager shall also arrange for the technical help that the CRC needs to do its business, including communications between its members and with the public. Within the first week following, and Bill says certification of the election, I think that's a good change. I would keep that in there, of the CRC members, or at the first available time thereafter. I would definitely not keep that in there. I want the feet to be held to the fire, that it has to be within the first week. There's no reason why it shouldn't be. The county manager will meet with the new electee, because he's right there. That person is not a commissioner yet, having not been sworn in. I'm sure that's Bill's point. With the new electee receiving the most votes and relate this time it would have been Maureen C., I believe, receiving the most votes and relate the details of the provisions made for the commission as set out above. And then number 2, and he's added the 2. I'm not sure why I had that in there also. Members of the CRC shall serve without salary, except that they shall be reimbursed for reasonable out-of-pocket expenses. That part is in the present charter. And Bill adds, including for local travel, which I think is a good one. Bill, are you talking about the fair? Well, the ferry.
Well, it's not. No, it would include the ferry, but if you look
If
at
you had to drive. Yeah.
after travel, you'll go down to the next page.
Oh, and then we have, as an example, Ryan Drum, a Waldron commissioner on the first charter commission, got $15 per round trip when his costs were more than double that, and that was then. Today, round trips are $60. Round trips are $60 as scheduled, far more if chartered. And I'm sure you mean that to educate us not to be included in the charter, right?
That's the reality. I mean,
Yeah.
Waldron, we want people from outer islands.
So included for local travel, I think is an outstanding addition, and I have no problem with that. So it looks like Bill and I, at least, are good, except for one sentence at the beginning. But then there's the rest of you, and it doesn't matter whether we think it's good if you guys don't like it. All right. Any comments? All right.
I do.
Yes,
I was gonna
Kyle.
go left. So I added on the page I'm still on. So I was confused when you read this, and so maybe others are. The county, to read the whole phrase here, within the first week following certification of the election of the CRC members. Okay, never mind. That explains it.
Okay. Okay.
I wanted to differentiate the original election versus the selection of the internal election of, say, a chair.
Yeah.
Never mind.
And let me correct myself. I am not good with or at the first available time thereafter. That could be December 31st. It's got to be within the first week to get things rolling. I don't see any reason why they can't do that. They can take 10 years to prepare to do that if they want to. But that doesn't mean take it out, because Bill may want to have it in there. And so here's what I'm going to do at this point.
Bob, I've spent 50 years drafting documents, and anything you don't provide for, there's a guarantee that it will happen.
Right.
All it is a reach. Something could happen to the general manager. You really just don't know. But so you put a little availability thing there. If something happens, allow for
I understand what you're saying, Bill, but I would rather hold their feet to the fire so it gets done.
it. Well,
That's my opinion. Yes, Patty.
Wait a minute, Bob.
Okay, go ahead, Bill. I'm sorry, Bill wasn't done, Patty. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll simmer down, but it'll happen.
Okay, Patty. Muted. You're muted, Patty. Can't hear you.
Come on. Okay. It sounds a little soon within the first week. We're talking November. I know we didn't even get oath of office until we had to do it by January 1, because that's when our term starts. And I think, getting the guy who won the most votes in the process the week after he's elected, which is in November.
Or she in this case.
Well, she, whatever. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It is not an it. But
They,
they, I know they is the one that we use, even though to me that's like, no, they is plural.
It's so ungrammatical. It gives me the creeps, but go ahead.
It's
Okay,
tighter
so
than that.
I really think that having to do it within the first week is a little too soon in my mind. I know we didn't get together until probably, gosh, it was into February, I think, before we started our process, because we had some IT problems and things like that. I think it's really important that in this case, Maureen was able to get help sooner than she did get help. But I think holding them to a week, I'm kind of against
Okay.
that.
Oh,
I think the language better.
I'd like to address what you said and what Bill is saying. What if we change what I have in there from the first week to the end of November? That only leaves 30 days before we have to be going.
Wait,
There you go.
there's a
Yes?
problem here.
Okay, what is it?
The auditor has 30 days to certify the election. We will be in December. The assumption that, oh, here's the vote. The certification takes, they have under the statute, 30 days. Allow for that. It will be tight.
Okay.
We
So
don't want it to be tight, so why don't we take certification out? Do we have any doubt?
no.
Without certification, that electee has no right to have that discussion.
Well, I believe doesn't the present charter talk about the person with the most votes convenes the,
still has to be certified.
well, at that point, that person probably has to also be sworn in and be a commissioner when they convene the meeting. So, okay, so we're saying, Bill, the election, let's say the election takes place on November 6th.
Yeah,
And,
let's
and
say
they
it
have they have 30 days from November 6th to
Yeah.
certify. It's never going to be past November 7th. So,
The certification, Bob, could occur before that, but the absolute deadline is 30 days after the election date. That's all I'm saying.
yes. Well, then, okay. So since it's 30 days after the election date and the election can't occur after,
Just say
it
certification.
can't occur after the 7th. No, I'm trying to get the date. So what if we went, so you're saying, Bill, that the day after, by the day after the certification, the meeting has to occur, right?
No, because it might not, the manager might not be available then. Don't be so specific for a day. It's got to be within a time period that has to be possible, but it has.
Suggest what it should be. And Patty has a suggestion also. Patty, what's your suggestion?
I'm just saying, we don't really take office until the 1st of January.
Of
So
course.
it would seem like any time before then, like within the first 20 days of December or something like that would be reasonable for that person then to start getting people together who don't take office until the 1st of January.
Well, according to Bill, the first day in December, the first 20 days in December could occur during a time when certification
All right.
had not yet happened. And matter of fact, it would unless election day was on the,
I said the
Third,
middle
second or
of
third.
December or something. I'm just saying that we aren't really doing anything until the 1st of January. So
That's right.
why hurry this process before we can even do anything?
Well, I think the issue is disclosure. It's the county manager saying, here's the deal, but he has to be talking to the right person who is the certified electee,
Right.
or he or she,
Yeah.
because there's no point talking to the wrong person.
Right. Let's talk about what the problem is. The problem exhibited itself this time out when we didn't have a budget. We didn't have the communications were not worked out. We didn't have we even had the wrong system that we were going to use to communicate with each other. And the Zoom wasn't worked out. None of that was worked out. And Kyle, I'm sorry, Kevin, not Kyle. Kevin has objected to that reasonably. He thinks that was a bad idea. And he thinks that we ought to have a system where everything is in place. The first day we can start working. We could have had a meeting on the 3rd of January that was up with the Zoom and everything. We could have started that then and recaptured basically almost another month. Okay. So he's right. So we have to find a way to do that. This does it, except it sounds like we're down to the time, and I'm getting worn down here about my wanting to do it, a week after. So all I want now is for someone to give me the language of when they think it ought to be. Kyle, you got any ideas?
Well, you've seen mine.
Yeah, and that we could do that. That's a possibility. Any other options? If there are no other options, and it sounds like nobody likes my first week suggestion, then let's just go with the first time available. That's a meaningless term to me, but okay. What exactly? Okay, Patty.
I think that you were reasonable by saying within, say, the middle of December, or within some time that is reasonable, because it gives an amount of time, and it is before the 1st of January. So I think putting a date, December 15th or whatever, wouldn't be unreasonable, but that's my opinion.
How about if we said at some point after the certification, but before the 31st of December?
That works.
Because the next day, the commission goes into effect.
That works.
All right. So could we put that in there within, let's say, yeah, on or before, no, after certification. Yeah. I see what you're doing. On or before the 31st of September. No, it's got to be
Not or.
following the certification of
Not
those elected, and not after the 31st of December. Does that do it?
Now, I have a question about this, Bob.
Yes, sir.
It kind of assumes that the chair goes to the manager or vice versa, and they agree on a budget, which ERC has to approve. It's not, my understanding is the county manager would say what facilities are available, but it certainly won't be the budget until the commission meets.
It can be if we put this provision in there saying that that's what the budget is. Then we've got that amount, and the responsibility of the commission will be to provide its detailed budget, live within it, and return any excess funds to the council. Liz.
Just in heads up, we're 3 minutes out from public comment.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. All right.
Hey, Bob, are you putting in the blue part? Is that what we have purportedly approved?
We haven't approved anything, and no event shall the funds provided. That is what my motion is going to say. I'm going to make a motion right now. Okay. And my motion is that this be approved. If I could see the whole thing, the blue part with the blue part in, with the red part in, the following certification.
Can you let Jane in while I move this around?
Let Jane, wow, where did Jane
Jane's
go?
wanting back in the meeting from her.
Absolutely. We like Jane. Let's get her back in here.
And whether we like her or not, we let everybody in.
No, I only let the people in I like. So those of you who have been let in,
Have we taken a vote?
glow in my approval.
Well, we have
So Bob, I second your motion.
What is the motion again?
Okay, that we approve this amendment, this proposed amendment to the charter, the way it reads that you're looking at, including the first blue sentence, the next,
I'm voting no,
the red part.
blue,
Okay.
but that's all right.
Do you want to, Bill? I don't want to,
I'll
I
give a
don't wanna-
minority report. It's okay.
I don't want to muscle you out. If you want to, do you want to?
So point of order, I'm going
Yes.
to retract my second because we're still in discussion, so I don't think we're really in motion mode. So I retract my second.
Okay, I thought I was still making the motion.
Okay,
Okay, I move that we accept new section 9.22 to the charter as it appears on your screen. All the words that are presently there. Do I hear a second? With no second, the motion fails. All right. Anybody else have a motion?
I move we approve it without the blue part.
All right. Could you take the blue part out, Kyle? That apparently was the problem people had. Do I hear a second? With no second, the motion fails. Any other motions regarding this matter?
I think we're close. All I want to hear is that we like the rest of the language, and there's either one or the other. My sense is that people haven't tried all the rest of it yet. So I just want to check, following the certification of the election of the CRC members, but not after the 31st of December, the county manager will meet with the electee, et cetera. Is that close to what you intended?
Yes.
That's it. The language that you've got there now is what my motion was. And Bill's motion was the language that's there now with the part struck out that you've indicated is struck
I
out.
will second Bill's motion.
Bill's motion.
As it's.
All right. Bill, why don't you make your motion again? And then Kyle's going to second it.
We approve that we approve what is before us with the blue struck, otherwise as is.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right. Is there further discussion? Yes, Liz.
it doesn't address the continuation of meeting via technology, whether it be Zoom or something else, and that being a great access for the public and the commissioners, sort of equal access.
This is only a budget.
It doesn't need to.
It does say and provisions, so she's right.
The county manager shall provide an adequate space and/or telecommunications services for the commission to conduct all of its hearing. It says adequate. The county manager shall also arrange for the technical help that the CRC needs to do its business, including the communications between its members and the public. Now, knowing that that's in there, does that resolve your question about this?
I think so. And we are into public comment time.
All right. Is there any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, we will take a vote on Bill's motion. All in favor, please
sorry.
raise your,
Bob, I just rejoined. I'm sorry.
okay.
Yeah,
Hi,
I
Jane.
just had a quick, hi, I apologize. I just got back in the car. I just had a quick question about Bill's desire to remove the blue text. If he could, I apologize. I missed an explanation of that.
And Bob, I think we need to suspend our conversation and go to public comments, and then we reopen our conversation. Isn't there a point of order how that works?
We can run over time.
Yeah, but not with, she's right, not with the public comment. All right.
Okay, no problem.
We will have new business, and then after the public comment, we'll have new business. And then we will finish this and then have a brief discussion about what we didn't discuss. And then we'll go our separate
Thank you.
ways. All right. Any member of the public who wishes to speak, please unmute yourself and put your picture up so we can see it. And the the first person who does that and raises his or her hand, I will recognize.
Alexandra.
You see Alexandra up there?
Oh,
Bob?
there she is. Hi, Alessandra. What you got to say?
For the record, Alexandra Gayak, Orcas Island. Two things. One is, I really think we should decide, and I'm not sure whether the budget is the place to do it, to hold this commission in the future virtually because of what Liz said a minute ago, that it allows equal access both to commissioners from distant islands and the public to participate, that it really, all of government, I think, should be moving in that direction in this county in particular, because of the way the islands are oriented, that it takes an inordinate amount of time for people from distant islands to have to come to Friday Harbor for meetings, as it does for any of us who go from different islands. So that's, I don't know whether the budget is the place where that decision needs to be made, but I feel very strongly that that should be something that's enacted within this charter. The other issue has to do with the discussion we were having before, which had, or you were having before, which had to do with where are these rights or values or whatever we're going to call them delineated. And I feel that it's a really bad idea to leave it up to the job description of the commissioner and its department. That we really need the strength to be in the document to the extent that's possible to put there, to be the thing that doesn't change with the political winds, with whoever, because we've seen so often the choice by the council, the particular council that's in place, just not to bother to enforce things. And that, as people discussed, has been the real issue all along, is we've got all kinds of laws that say all kinds of things and nobody's able to enforce them because, gosh, we only have one enforcement officer for the entire county, and that person can be overridden by the by Arka Shook or whoever's in her position. So, it's just completely inadequate the way it's structured and set up. But the more we can put into the language of the charter that this is what needs to be enforced, and these are the people, the county council is responsible for making this happen, and not leave it up to the discretion of the county council whether or not to enforce something, and not leave it up to who happens to be elected in that position and what kind of public pressure they then receive because people don't like it. Because there will be pushback. So I'm in favor of anything we can do within the charter itself to implement whatever we can implement about the rights of nature, and not foist it off onto just the responsibility of the commissioner and his or her, or it's their department.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Alexandra. Other public comment? Yes, Kaisen? Kai? Kaisen?
Yeah, I couldn't find the raised hand part. Yeah, I just
Okay.
wanted, so.
We recognize actual hands also.
Thank you.
Your name and location for the record?
Yeah, Ty Sandburn, Lopez Island. And, I just want to say I'm really struck often these days, but regarding the distance between what we know we have to do and what we believe we can do or believe we're allowed to do. And I think everyone who's in this committee and who's on the Home Rule Charter, and so many people I know believe we need to take really bold action to address the climate and environmental crises before us. But we don't believe we have, we don't believe we can. And I am hearing from, in this meeting, there really strong support for the concept, the idea that nature has the right to survive, thrive, and regenerate its vital life cycles. But we live under a legal system that doesn't allow that. And so we are letting that legal system or Randy Gaylord or state preemption determine what we can do. And I understand the real limitations of that. But I don't think if our county passed a Bill of Rights with the rights of nature that we would be laughed at. I think we move the conversation. I think when the people in Toledo voted to recognize the rights of Lake Erie, that did not stand. But I think that motivated people and made people kind of take a different look. So I just want to encourage us to be bold. And I am skeptical that shunting that off to someone who doesn't exist yet in a job that doesn't exist yet is where they're going to have any more power than a group of people committed right now in this moment to, take a stand. So I just encourage you to be bold and kind of keep the teeth in it. And I understand it may not pass, but yeah, and I see Bill's nature will survive. Yes, but I think if humans actually go down, we will do so much damage to nature. So I'll end with that little plea, and thank you for your work you're doing.
Thank you, Kai.
I appreciate it.
Do we have any other public comment?
Micheline.
Micheline? Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, yes.
I'm
thank you.
I'm Micheline Halliday. I live on San Juan Island. I think the damage we're doing to the environment is real and ongoing. I think if all of us disappear off this planet in the next 2 minutes, the planet will continue to suffer just because there's lasting toxins, problems, you name it here. It's going to take a long time for nature to heal even without us. So I think rights in nature has to happen. It has to be bold. And if it does pass, honestly, after some of these meetings, I feel frustrated that maybe it can't pass. But if it does pass, I hope it does pass. There's got to be enforcement. There absolutely has to be enforcement. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Any other public comment? If there isn't any more public comment, I would like to make one response, which is I think that, at least for myself, I've not made myself understood about where I think we are. I think all of the things on anybody's list of how we ought to protect nature, they're all things that must be pursued. All right. They're all things that must be made a part of the law. The problem is that we have levels of the law where that has to occur. We can do in the county only the part that has been cut out of the law by the state. All right. There are certain things, and I don't yet know what they are, but there are certain things that we might want to do, which this is in the state's purview. We don't give up and say, well, that's that. It's just that we can't put it in the charter. What we do is we go up to Olympia and get them to change the law. There may be some federal laws which over, are senior over that state law. We don't give up because we can't get it done at Olympia. We get our senators to work on it in the Congress. That's just the way that the things work. And we will be spinning our wheels if we don't keep within our charter that which we have the authority to address. Okay. And I say we address it right up to the hilt. And it may be more than what you all are thinking. I do not know how much it is. That's the kind of research that has to happen. So maybe what we ought to do is go ahead and list all of the things that we think are important, that we would, if we could snap our fingers, they'd all be there. And then we need to do the research of which of those things are we precluded from addressing because they are matters that are within the purview of our state legislature. And then once we address those things and put them aside and don't make the mistake of including them in our charter proposal, then those things can be the subject at the least of part of what the climate commissioner will be asked to do. And there probably ought to be other efforts, to up there in Olympia and then on in Washington. Bill.
If you look at my emotionally very unsatisfying draft of rights, and I acknowledge that, because the important thing is the law. And if we're going to change the law, we have to reach forward and capture everything that happens. And if you look at what I end up doing, I reach out to Article 11, Section 11 of the state constitution. This is the ultimate power of the county. What has to happen in terms of the legislation, which we're attempting to do, and we don't have the power to do, is to give the county council the power, by reference, to as much as it has and much as it possibly can, because only the county council can pass ordinances with any teeth. And we want to reach forward and get those. Just as Bob said, we not only have to lobby the state, we also have to lobby our commissioners, because it's the commissioners who can pass the laws within the county's power. And as that power changes by federal and state laws, as they change, the county can reach out and expand the balloon and move it. We need to create something where the process that we know is already starting can expand and not have anything in our charter limit that process. And that's what I drafted. But unfortunately, I drafted it as a lawyer and not as a preacher. And so
Thank you, Bill. Can we, you have more?
No, it isn't going to
Okay.
grab people.
Can we finish the thing that I think we're right at the edge of completing, which is the CRC budget and provisions. Bill, could you put that back up?
You mean Kyle?
Kyle, I'm sorry. I'm very tired. Very tired. All
Any
right.
closing public comment?
I'm sorry. Yes, public comment is now closed. We took all the comments that people had, and thank you very much for attending and for making the comments that you have made. Yes. Now, where we are is, let's see, I made my motion. It didn't get a second. Bill made his motion. And I think it did get a second. We were open for discussion. We were discussing back and forth. I think that's where we are. Is there more discussion on Bill's motion? If there's no more discussion on Bill's motion,
Bob, I have my hand up.
I'm sorry. Oh, hands are not appearing. Oh, now I can see you. Yes, go ahead. What comment do you have?
So we did, I apologize. So the first sentence up there, I don't know if that addresses what Alexander was pointing to in terms of, equity and being able to access the footprint of people meeting in person versus using technology. You all asked me, does that satisfy that? And my answer is I don't know.
No,
So
no, do we, are you suggesting that we ought to dictate to future commissions how they ought to communicate? I mean, would you have liked that? I think that
So Bob, yes,
Yes.
a lot was dictated to us. So that's inflammatory language there, just FYI. And I do think that if we're putting out these things, then to look at the critical language of not requiring that people meet in person.
Have any other comments? Jane has her hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I think having some flexibility in this regard would be indeed appropriate, given that it's now technologically possible to enable greater participation from the public more efficiently by using technology, but that shouldn't preclude being able to meet in person as well. So, I think it would be good. I think it would be prudent to have some flexible language in there that allows for maximum public participation. And given that it's feasible, it would be, I agree with you about not dictating, but yeah.
Okay, how about if at the end of to conduct all of its meetings, period, we change that to a comma and put whether in person or electronically. That do it?
Bob, I don't know if you can see hands. I know this with the shared
Yes,
screen.
I can now see your hand. Yes.
So I like what Jane had just said about having some language in there that defers to, or strengthens the inclusion of the public being able to participate.
Great. What is your suggestion?
I don't have a suggestion.
Jane, what is your suggestion?
can you point me to whether it's A or B? Sorry, I can't. Oh, Patty's got her hand up.
Patty,
Jane
Patty.
said, I think what she just said about flexible language that allows for maximum public participation. Those are the key words right there.
There it
Allowing
is.
for
Yeah.
maximum Public participation.
Yeah, get that in there.
Okay, will provide an adequate space. Whoops, I'm sorry, I messed my thing up.
I think we're talking public access. We don't have to say how, and it might not be by space.
No, they want it to be adequate public access. Shall provide an adequate space or telecommunications service for the commission to conduct all of its meetings.
You could add in a manner that facilitates maximum public
Participation.
Yes.
participation.
Love it. Let's put
Yeah.
that down.
Yep.
Kyle, can you add that to it?
In a manner that facilitates maximum public participation.
Wow, that's maximizes public participation.
And thank
Okay.
you, Jane. That's exactly it. And Bob, you have my vote.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, is there any further discussion?
I had one question.
Yes, Jane.
Bob,
Yes,
I
Jane.
just, again, I apologize. I was absent
Sure.
when you struck the in no event shall the funds provided to the CRC be less than total expenditures of the.
Right.
I'm just curious the thinking on that.
Well, I'll tell you, Jane, I had that in there in the first place, and I'm not going to vote for this motion because it has been struck. Bill asked for it to be struck, so he can answer your question.
Thank you.
No, I think the way that language is going to hit the CRC is whether we need the money or not, we're going to get a sum, the minimum of which is the previous CRC. And things happen. I think there's going to be resistance. And as long as the funds for the particular CRC involved are sufficient, there's no need to refer to what the budget for the previous CRC is. The previous CRC's budget is irrelevant. What is relevant is the budget for the CRC under discussion.
Mr. Chair, I have a response to that.
Yes, Jane.
I'm
ahead.
not sure if Bill is aware that the budget that we were given was indeed not insignificantly less than the previous CRC's budget. And that is why this CRC had to go back to the county and ask for more money.
I'm fully aware of that. The point is, though, that we were given an initial amount that really should have nothing to do with the previous CRC. If we need $20,000, we should ask for it. We should budget it and ask for that. Each CRC is really very different in terms of its expenses, and it has no relation to the previous CRC. If you put that language back in, and all I can say is I will speak at the larger meeting, and I think a lot of other people will. I think it's unnecessary. If we're provided with enough money, it's enough money. That's the only issue, is what's enough.
I have a response. There is a budget that has to be prepared by the county council, as I understand. If they take the amount that was expended in the last CRC and put that in the budget, they'll have somewhere to go. Otherwise,
That's a
they'll have
benchmark, yeah.
Yeah, otherwise
Exactly.
they'll have to guess.
Right.
And when they guessed this
Exactly.
last time, they guessed way insufficiently, and it caused
Exactly.
us a headache. That's one of
It's
the
a
main
benchmark.
reasons why that's in there. So,
It's a benchmark.
as I said, unless it's put back in, I'm going to vote no. Other comments? Patty?
I think it was pointed out that it could be too much because
Sure.
there are different things. Say we have so much technological improvement and we have the ability to use what the county already has, and we don't need to spend money on Zoom, and we do need somebody there to do the work like Catherine is doing, but maybe by this time, there will be so easy for us to just put things on the thing. It may not be necessary to have that much money in our budget. So I understand where you're coming from, but I also understand that Bill is saying, let's not get too much money because then we feel we have to spend it.
There's only one way that you can ensure that you will not be budgeted too much money, and that's by woefully under budgeting you. That's the only way.
Then you
And that's what they will do. And if
But-
that's what you want, vote for this language. Yes, Kyle.
I have a friendly amendment. It's in the blue and shaded. And I think this is to the public's concern about sufficient and prioritize public inclusion. So I think we do really mean not just in our meetings, but increased public access or maximize public participation through our meetings and any business.
Bill, would you accept that as a friendly amendment to your motion? Okay, that's accepted as a friendly amendment to the motion is now included. Okay, Liz, looks like you had something.
So the problem with having a budget that's too small is it, yes, they can go back and ask for more, but it slows down the process.
Yes,
And then we get this enormous pressure to make critical decisions fast, which isn't a good combination necessarily. So
I
is
agree.
there language that covers both of those?
not that I know of,
In our case, though,
either there or not.
was that we were not allocated enough money. And I think this is why the ask, which has to occur around December 31, is the to-be chair should say, this is what I have in mind to propose. If the manager comes back and says, no, I'm going to give you what happened last time, I'll give you 1.1 penny more. And I have met my obligation because I provided you what the previous one got in 1 penny.
Bill,
I-
there's the sentence after that provides for that eventuality. Should the funds provided prove to be inadequate to the task, the commission may ask the county council for more funding, which may be provided at the council's discretion. It's just that by giving them the amount and having them budget for it ahead of time that the last council spent, it makes it less likely that the commission is going to have to come back before the county. I think Jane had her hand up for quite a long time. Jane?
I'm okay, Bob. I don't have a further comment.
Thank you. Patty?
Okay.
Patty?
Just one thing, one of the reasons that our budget was less than the last one was because of the not needing space to meet and
Yeah.
ferry fares to cover, things like that. So that, just so people don't think that, oh gosh, they were really cheap this time, but there was a reason the other budget was more expensive.
Okay. Anybody else? No, if there's no further comment, let's have a vote on this Bill's motion as amended. We did have a second, did we not?
I think so.
Kyle seconded. All right, all in favor of Bill's motion, indicate it by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3.
Bill, you're muted.
Do you mean to vote for your motion, Bill?
Could I see what the final version is?
It's in front of you, should be in front of you.
Well, it's not finished.
Oh. What needs to be changed?
I want to make sure we've got the final word. Okay, I'm with it.
Okay, so could I see the show of hands again, please? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. 5. Okay, all opposed? I think just myself. So the motion passes 5-1. Thank you very much. We can move on to the next thing. Could I ask you, Kyle, to send me a copy of that as it's been amended so I can
Me
get
too.
it to the, yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you, everybody, for your hard work on that issue. All right. Kyle Davies, yes, the Kyle Davies Commission, the Kyle Davies Subcommittee should have a report on the definition for the word of nature as used in the county charter. Do you have that? And does the group want to discuss it now? If he does, we could put it on next week's agenda. First of
what-
all, let's first find out, Kyle, whether you're prepared to discuss it if the group wants to.
I am, we are, it's 18 minutes past our normal closing time,
It
so.
cer- it
would be
certainly
at the-
is.
At the discretion of the group.
All right. Yes, it certainly is at the discretion of the group. I need either, let's have a show of hands who would like to adjourn now
So
without
can we
discussing.
go out of shared screen mode, Kyle?
I'm sorry, sure.
Thank you.
A show of hands of people who would like to adjourn now without discussing that particular thing.
Next week.
One, two, and Kyle, three. I totally understand that.
With a caveat.
I totally understand that. It's 3-3, and then I would break the tie.
I'm going to change my vote.
Well, all right, that's, we're going to adjourn, and we will put this on next
Yes.
week's agenda. Kyle, is what you put out in shape to share it with us? There you go. Can you send that to us?
Absolutely.
Please.
All right, Kyle's going to send that definition to us. We will mull it over and be prepared to pass a definition of nature as the first item in our discussion next week, okay? Then we'll move on from there to the Bill of Rights. Be thinking if you can of particular rights, which I think would start with the word "to." It doesn't have to, but the right to this, the right to that, the right particular rights that you think that are important, without thinking a lot about whether it doesn't work because it's already taken care of in the state or national legislation or constitution. All right, just if you can come in with a list of things that you think ought to be included, and they can come from anywhere, from your brain, from stuff that other organizations have prepared, from articles, whatever. And we'll take that list and combine it, and then try and figure out what we want to do with it, which ones we think ought to be included. Yes, Jane, you're.
Can you hear me? Okay, just a question regarding the rights of people issue that is meant to be incorporated into this Bill of Rights.
Yes.
And I saw in an email, I think that you sent out, Bob, that you were kind of pushing that off to the Justice and Equity Committee to deal with. I don't know, I'm not sure.
Not meant to. I don't think that this
I suggest it.
group has, I don't think we have made a decision that whether we will have the rights of human beings and then the rights of nature, because all of us, I think, believe that human beings are subsumed under the term nature. So, and yet, do we miss out on the opportunity to prepare a Bill of Rights for human beings, which normally discusses the way that one human being treats another, not having anything to do with any other species? You know, usually it's you can't do this, you can't discriminate against people on this basis. Don't we want to have those kinds of things in our Bill of Rights? I don't know. Liz had her hand up first. Liz.
Pointing out that by having separate Bill of Rights and rights of nature further entrenches us in the division that we are separate from and not part of nature.
Well, I certainly didn't think that there was any discussion of not having the rights of nature in the Bill of Rights. To me, the discussion just was, where does, we don't want to take our species and toss it out the window. Our species we do things to each other that are bad. And a Bill of Rights that we have at various other levels attempts to cover some of that. Yes, Liz.
Can I ask a question? So clarifying question, Bob, your intent is to do a Bill of Rights that speaks both to human rights and the rights of nature or the ecosystem.
That would be my intention,
Okay,
but that's
okay.
just me.
Yeah, no.
I'm
I'm on board with that because that moves the conversation forward that, we are not separate from, but part of.
Yes, we are losing our impetus to adjourn, but yes,
Yeah.
Bill.
I'm really quite concerned about this, and this is why I'm the one who suggests that otherwise what's Jane's committee doing. I think it needs to be upfront, a short statement about the mess of humanity and what the interhuman rights are. They're very important because one of the problems is the lack of interhuman rights is one of the things that is destroying nature. And we need to recognize that. I don't think treating human beings separate from nature in a rights column is separating us from nature. Of course, we're part of it, and we've said that in the nature. But I really hope that Jane's committee can give us an idea about what ought to go there, because I do think the rights of human beings and how they treat each other is extremely important. It is what government is for.
And this is one of the reasons that we have
Yeah.
Jane on this committee, and we can really profit from her presence. Go
I'm
ahead.
hoping there could be a discussion between Bob and Jane about how
Yeah.
this is going to be handled. I think it's absolutely necessary that we talk about human rights.
And I can promise you, Jane, there won't be any turf thing going on. If you think that you would like to grab that and not grab it, assume it and take it to your committee and totally take care of it. And so we don't have a Bill of Rights anymore. We have a Rights of Nature section.
Yes, well, that's part of the
If
Bill
you
of
want,
Rights.
if you want to do that, well, it won't be if we separate it. See, the bill,
That's the way I organize it, what I have sent to everybody. We have the rights of,
Jane,
and the rights of people.
can we,
About
can,
individuals.
okay, can we talk about this, Jane, without holding up everybody else at another
Yeah,
time?
I think so. I think, yeah, I'm, yes.
And
I
then
we
we-
need to adjourn.
Yeah.
And I just think this is a very important discussion
I
and,
think people want to adjourn. You still want to adjourn, right? Or do you want to sit here and talk about who's going to handle the human rights part?
There's two separate questions there, Bob. So yes, I want to be part of the conversation that you're having with Jane. Yes, I want to adjourn, and I want to know, Bill, is your property rights and the rights of nature a public document?
What I sent out was a template for discussion, but I think, and I don't know that Jane got a copy.
yeah, I read it and I endorsed it.
Is this a public document, Bill?
It's just one guy's starting to think about this. because-
That doesn't, my question is simply, is this shareable?
By nature of being shared, it's already in the record.
Okay, so it's a public document.
Record. Well, put it this way, if the public asks for it, it's available. I haven't disseminated it, and I don't know what happens once it gets on the county system.
Okay, the public has asked for it. I didn't want to share it inappropriately. So it is out there. It is available to be sent to them. So-
You don't mean through any kind of
Well, but
public records request?
No,
We should talk about- Okay, I see. I see.
to the committee, it's not the committee's act. It's one guy's attempt to get the conversation started, which it apparently has.
Jane,
Yeah, just
Jane.
on that point, Bill, you may not have heard me say this in the meeting, CRC meeting, not last week, but the week before, but I did get a chance to finally read that document. I appreciated it. I thought it was a very good conversation starter. And it's in fact a bit the impetus for me to, to join in with your committee. And I think that if your committee is taking on the responsibility of putting forward a proposed amendment for a Bill of Rights in our charter, then I think it behooves us to work together, these two committees, to get in there the language we want. And
Very glad
so
to
I
do
guess
that.
what I'm proposing is that we have a further discussion of this next week as an agenda item, and we all do some homework to read Bill's piece and put some thought into this in advance.
I'm really glad you're here because that's what I was looking for.
all right, we'll do
Okay,
that.
thank
We'll put Bill's document on the agenda. We'll have a discussion about human rights and
Yes.
the rights of nature, how they fit together. Should they be in one document? And we'll also have a discussion, which will be adjunct to that, regarding Bill's proposal. Okay. Other questions about what about today? Is everybody cool with adjourning presently? And it sounds like, Jane, we may or may not need to meet beforehand, given that it's going to go on here. So if we get the chance to, we'll do it.
Yeah, I don't think so, but if, it might be interesting to chat with you and Bill, offline, just to get some of your legal thoughts, around this stuff, but not absolutely necessary. I've got a pretty crazy week myself, so I'm interested in maybe just furthering the conversation as a committee and then taking it from there.
Great. I do not have time available until Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's my,
Okay,
those are my days that that I don't have filled up with commission work,
okay,
Democratic Party work, et cetera, et cetera.
I'd be glad to support your work, your committee's work, Jane, but just remember, I'm not the lawyer, but I'll tell you what I think Randy might say. And ultimately, Randy is the sieve we have to get through.
right,
I'm
gotcha.
totally thrilled that
Yeah.
we've done this connecting thing. I hope other committees will realize the need for cross-pollination because of subject matter, if they do have that need, and we'll do it. But here it's really obvious. And thank you, Jane, for coming on board and becoming the connector. I think it's really going to be helpful to us.
Kyle's
Okay.
been connecting too.
Do I hear a motion?
I move
A motion to adjourn.
All right, we are adjourned,
Okay,
and we'll see you guys tomorrow afternoon, I guess.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right, bye-bye. Have a good day,
Bye.
everyone.
Good to have you here, Jane.